Scanning for audio.
Welcome once again to another For Your Consideration, the show where me, Michael, the bloke you probably know from the Tin Dog podcast, talks to my good friend Luke, and we introduce stuff that the other person may or may not be familiar with. Last time, Luke chose Jeeves and Wooster. That's the 1990s TV show that was on ITV in the UK and was probably shown around the world. And more importantly, has got Fry and Laurie in it. First off, hello, Luke.
Hello, Michael. Yes, it's good to be with you on, well, before the heat wave really gets going, in the mid to late June. Yes.
The problem is, a lot of Americans will be going, my God, those temperatures, they're perfectly normal. But we don't have aircon because we were never supposed to be this warm.
No, we weren't. I'm going to an air-conditioned office tomorrow, so I will be happy about that.
Now that is wise.
So yes, I picked Jeeves and Wooster.
Right.
Which
why?
Why? Well, I was thinking about this. In a sense, this was my first grown-up TV show, right?
Yeah.
Now, like if you've got the DVDs or the Blu-ray, or not the Blu-rays, there isn't a Blu-ray. If you've got the DVD or the VHS, the first two series are U-rated, right? So in a sense, it's suitable for children. But it is, it was shown in the evening. It was probably primarily aimed at adults. So I would have been 6 when the first series was on. Now, I believe that I didn't start watching at series 1 because I have a very distinct memory of the first episode of series 2, which is one of the ones that we looked at when we were prepping for this. So I think I probably started with series 2, which would have been when I was 7. And obviously because this was my introduction to Fry and Laurie, I suspect you knew them from other things before you saw.
Oh yeah,
Jeeves and Wooster. It's a good place to start, I think. To be honest.
Well, yeah.
I saw a thing on Twitter today. I don't know. I retweeted it. You may have seen it, and it was one of these AI posters of Hugh Laurie as Doctor Who. And the comment from this person was, "I think all these people are tweeting this because they want Hugh Laurie as House as the Doctor." And this person was like, I want Hugh Laurie as Bertie Wooster as the Doctor. And it's that thing of those two roles are really emblematic of his versatility as an actor, right? Because you have all these Americans who just don't believe that he could possibly have been... Well, he managed to fool a lot of people that he was American for a start. I once saw a clip of House where... the physicality in the moment, he did a very Bertie Wooster thing. And I was like, there it is. Just for a moment.
Yeah.
He as House, he moved like Bertie Wooster.
It didn't happen often, but it was.
No, it didn't happen very often. But otherwise, they're completely different characters. So, and obviously Fry, has done many, many things over the years. And I've seen him in lots of stuff since, obviously, as himself in QI a lot of the time. And so going back to this for this podcast, you're like, oh yeah, no, he's properly playing this character, right? They both kind of immerse themselves in this world with Fry playing the brainy butler and Wooster playing the likable but slightly inept rich dude. And I guess as a 7, 8, 9-year-old as I would have been when this was on, it was just fun, right? It was just a funny program. Suitable for all the family. We'd sit down, all 6 of us, and we would watch it together, and it was funny. And I've always found it funny. And then I bought it on VHS at some point in the late 90s, I guess. And then it came out on DVD. And I bought it on DVD. And I think, as I said to you last time, if they found all the film reels, if they exist still, and rescanned them all and released it in on Blu-ray, I would buy that. I can't see that there's a market for that, sadly. But yeah.
Well, you say that, but I've got a theory, and there is a reason why I would think it could happen. And it's not for Blu-ray. It's because, you know, the company in America who said, they were asked, are you interested? I think they're like the American equivalent of Alibi. Are you interested in co-producing Doctor Who? They were asked this last year or something.
Right, yeah.
And they were like, no, but we do work with Bad Wolf, and we're very interested in some of the other stuff. And Cozy Murder is definitely something like that. But this fits very much, and we'll discuss this later on, into the Downton Abbey scheme of things.
Yes. Yes.
Not just because of the location, but because of the time period, and
yeah.
it's also, for me, fits with Poirot and Holmes, given the production company that was making it and things like that.
Yes.
But it's very much its own thing. So if you wanted to distribute this around the world, the only thing it needs, literally the only thing it needs to have a sort of prolongated shelf life, is what they've done with Star Trek, which is release an HD version.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could produce an HD version and you don't have to do the effects or anything like that, let's face it, it's literally just, we used some lovely locations and some lovely costumes, that sells, and we can do it. And Woodhouse lived in America for a long time, so he was more famous for living in the States than anything else. So I think, don't abandon hope, is what I'm saying. There's the possibility that it could exist in HD at some point, but not necessarily for Blu-ray.
Yes, yeah. I mean, to be fair, when I sent them to you, I kind of ripped them, and I had a brief kind of look on my 4K monitor, and they didn't look great. But then I've been for actually watching them. I've been watching them with my wife on her small laptop, and then last night we watched the third episode on the TV, and they looked fine. I think it was just that.
They look superb on a
just
massive Samsung phone.
Well, there you go. Exactly. So in a sense, actually, I think I'm slightly spoilt by having a 4K monitor from work, which I use for watching other stuff. But if you just watch it on a telly or on a small laptop, actually, it looks fine. It looks fine. Anyway, but and to go back to why I love it, I mean, the characters are great. They're very well drawn characters. One of Hannah's comments when we were watching the first episode was that when she was a kid, like Aunt Agatha was this kind of overbearing, mean woman essentially, and now she kind of watches it and goes, actually, I'm on her side, right? So there's kind of levels on which you can enjoy it, because in terms of like Bertie's the hero of the story, but actually there are many reasons that you could dislike him, because he's this rich layabout,
To be fair, that's the reason I didn't watch it when it was on the first time.
Okay, so
it's just another load of posh guys.
What's your history with the show then?
Right. So obviously my history with Brian Laurie is Blackadder.
Right, yeah.
And Wooster's got a lot in common with sort of Blackadder 3, especially. And I've got a kind of love-hate relationship with Stephen Fry as well. Because for years everyone's just gone on saying he's the cleverest man in TV.
No.
But I've realised what he is he knows a lot about specific things. He doesn't know, there are lots of other things. And he tells us this when he in interviews. There's stuff he just doesn't know that is of no interest, but he's concentrated on the sort of stuff that other people think makes you clever, like Greek myths and that kind of thing. And of course, he's got posh voice. They both have.
Yes.
There is a rumour that originally, when they were approached to do this, it was the other way around. They wanted Fry to play Wooster, but it just wouldn't work because
it wouldn't work at all.
Because you've got to have someone who can do a bit gormless but posh. And previously, Hugh Laurie had just done. We only knew him in our consciousness from Blackadder at that point. He may possibly have done Stuart Little, but I think his roles were fairly locked into that. Oh, hang on, what's the movie he will have done? It's the one we always watch at New Year. Oh, New Year's effing Eve. Have you seen it? The film Peter's Friends.
Okay, I'm not.
Oh my God,
aware
you
of
need
it.
to. We'll have to do that at New Year. It is a Christmas film. No, it's got Emma Thompson. It's got Steve. It's got all of these people in it, and
All of these people who knew each other from uni.
Well, yeah, exactly. All the people that knew from university. So I knew these people from that, and that was it. And
Right.
my experience of this was finding it in a bargain bin in a video shop.
Okay.
Was I think it was like $1.99 for a double VHS.
Double VHS.
For a whole season, because there's only 6 episodes per season.
Yeah.
That's right, isn't it?
Yes, 5 in the first series and then 6. So you've got 23 episodes across the 4.
Yeah, because there's 4
series.
Is there 4 seasons?
Yeah, there's 4 seasons. Yeah. But obviously, yes, you're right. It was. I mean, when I had them on VHS, that was 4 double cassettes, so it took up quite a lot of space on the shelf. And now it's just a 4
they
slim,
were well chunky.
4 slim double disc sets. So you'd originally avoided it because it was, here's a posh bloke.
It's me and posh boys. I'm not a big fan of people with the public school thing. And
talking of Stephen Fry and not knowing stuff, have you ever seen that clip of QI where Phil Jupitus is on, and in a Geordie accent,
let's not go there. Let's not alienate at least 3 of our listeners.
Well, anyway, in a Geordie accent, he says "we're drums," right, as in our drums, right?
Yeah.
And Stephen Fry hears this as war drums.
Yeah,
and it's because he's clearly never heard how Geordie people say "our."
Yeah.
And there's just an element of like you say, you're supposed to be this really clever dude hosting the show, and you don't know this
because the human brain's only got so much capacity.
Yeah, exactly.
You can have a lot in it,
yeah,
and you can have access to a lot of it. It's like people who win Countdown are really good at winning Countdown,
yes,
but are they good at anything else? And they'd probably be at home at Bletchley.
I mean, my brother could tell you all about that because he was on Countdown. Made it to the quarterfinals in his series.
So my experience was I bought them on VHS, and my girlfriend at the time had loved them originally. So she was like, "Let's watch them." So I did watch them, and I think liking the series lasted longer than the relationship, so that was fine. That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah. So yeah, I had these VHS and I watched them, and it was the sort of thing you could put on in the background. And they are, if you can get away from, well, hang on. There's a couple of points I need to make about the absence of like war and Bright Young Things and lots of, and them being from a time that didn't really exist, but it did because they're comedies. So it's like saying, do the Carry On films represent the 60s? Well, they are, but the ones set in the 60s, that wasn't what the 60s were like. It's like Carry On at Your Convenience, isn't it? So the Edwardian comedies of these, are they not real? Are they real? Or are they their own thing? And I think they're their own thing. I mean, let's face it, P.G. Wodehouse was Douglas Adams' favourite author.
Yeah.
And he was a comic writer who did far too much prep before he started writing. And because I've been reading up a little bit on this, I do some prep.
I mean, you did more than me, because my brother, off the back of this, got into reading Wodehouse, right, and read the Blanding stuff and other things. My wife and I somehow had a copy of Leave It to Smith with a P, which we read early on in our relationship. So I have read one Wodehouse, but my main experience of his work is this. And my understanding is that it's a reasonably faithful adaptation. Like if you look on the Wikipedia page, it gives you the sources for each episode. Like each episode is potentially like an amalgamation of 1, 2, maybe 3 Jeeves stories. So they're definitely drawing on Wodehouse's material.
By Bertie Wooster, and that surprised me.
They're all what?
They're not written third person.
Oh, the stories are written from Bertie's perspective. Ah, right, okay. I hadn't thought about that.
Like it's Bertie telling the stories, and that really came as left field to me, because I started reading a couple this week, and then I realised because we had a flood, I had other things to distract myself. So yeah, I didn't have the same amount of time as I usually have to dip in, but I did read Introduction to a Jeeves book, and I read a few snippets here and there, and I even tried to download the Richard Briers one, the one from Radio 4, because apparently there was a Richard Briers version that was really famous radio adaptation.
Interesting.
And I tried to find it, and what I actually found was one of the front lows on Radio 4, on BBC Sounds, and that was the. Hang on, this connects back to one of our earlier episodes. The bloke who was in Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, who was Adrian Mole, he was playing Bertie Wooster on stage.
Right. Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
So yeah. Anyway, I did try to do some research, but
Yeah.
my main experience. Oh, getting back to that House as Time Lord thing.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
My response to your tweet was, I would have been happy if you just get the entire Blackadder cast back together to make Doctor Who.
To make Doctor Who.
And of course, then I realised no, because I'm just having flashbacks to the Millennium Dome. Did you ever do that?
I never went to that. I heard that there was a thing
because there was a Blackadder special, and it was Blackadder with a time machine, and it was the same Blackadder characters throughout time.
Was that thing released on?
It might have been shown on TV.
But there was a thing called Blackadder Back and Forth.
That's the one. Yeah, it was meant to only be shown at the Millennium Dome, and that was it.
I have seen that. I think that was released. Anyway, I mean, obviously, you had Rowan Atkinson play the Doctor in The Curse of Fatal Death.
Well, exactly.
So you could
at the time,
you could go down that road. Anyway, for those who don't know Jeeves and Wooster, I guess we should kind of give a rough idea of what it's about, right?
Okay.
So in the first episode, it's a great piece of acting. It's basically he doesn't speak for the first sort of 5 minutes until Jeeves gives him the hangover cure. But you've basically got Wooster. He's up before a magistrate who's basically telling him he's done the worst crime ever, and then it turns out the crime is stealing a policeman's helmet on the night of the university boat race, and for which he gets fined £5 or something. And then he goes home, and then Jeeves turns up, and Jeeves has been sent by the agency as his new valet. Yeah. One assumes he's possibly had a valet before, but anyway,
I think he's gone through lots.
He's probably gone through lots. Anyway, Jeeves turns up, and Jeeves basically turns out to be really brainy, clever, and is able to get Bertie out of all the scrapes that he gets into, which generally something goes wrong in each episode that Jeeves has to solve.
Did you spot the narrative tool where, you know, the way that you split the Doctor and the companion up in order to have different adventures?
Yes.
You keep having to get Jeeves busy doing something else so that Bertie can get into bigger trouble so that he can then be rescued.
Yes. And then as the series goes on, other people get to know that Bertie has this excellent brainy manservant, and they get Bertie involved because they want Jeeves's brains to solve their problems. And a lot of the series revolves around the fact that his aunts, or one of his aunts in particular, is trying to get him married off. And he is largely wanting to avoid these engagements. And Jeeves is also wanting him to avoid these engagements. And so there's lots of kind of getting him out of being engaged to people, or making sure that other people's relationships continue on so that Bertie isn't then an object for somebody else's affections.
He's a matchmaker, but only to try and protect himself.
Yes, exactly. And this kind of plays out.
Did you ever find out where he gets his money from? Because obviously they're all people who've been to Oxbridge or specific private schools, and they are the useless upper class, the lower upper class. They're the dukes and the earls.
I mean,
the ones you've never heard of.
It seems like he's just inherited I mean, this is an interesting thing, is that you never meet his parents. But he does have lots of aunts, and there's at least one uncle that you come across at some point as well. So there's clearly the kind of the Wooster family. But yeah, you never meet his parents. And maybe it's a question of, like, his parents died and he inherited a bunch of money from them. We don't see, who managed it. I mean, one assumes that Jeeves helps him manage his money, but like how he was managing his money before Jeeves turned up, who knows? But I love the bit in the episode where at the beginning of series 3 where he goes to New York and they're in the lift, and the lift man kind of asks him how much he gets, and he says, we couldn't divulge that, but the remuneration is ample, which is Jeeves is happily.
Was it ample or adequate?
No, it was ample. Yeah. Because adequate would be definitely angling for a pay rise.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, it's interesting. Those questions are all left unanswered. You're introduced to this character as this kind of man with no job who enjoys the riches of the world and can, live in a flat somewhere in central London.
Yeah.
And then move off to America when he wants to on a boat and hire somewhere similar there, there doesn't seem to be any kind of problem around.
No, there's a
that.
lot. Yeah,
and
he's sort of cars
he's then surrounded by all these friends at his club called the Drones, who are similarly kind of useless.
Yeah.
People who steal things or throw bread rolls at each other. It's very
upper class twit of the year.
Yes, exactly that kind of thing. But in the midst of that, you still like him. You're rooting for him. The stories make you care about him as a person.
Which is
Hugh Laurie makes him a likable character.
Yeah, and these stories have been remade so many times as well.
Yes. And of course, obviously, you said to me, like, are we doing the version from I think there was a TV version in the 60s, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And as I said, this is literally my experience of Jeeves and Wooster is this particular series. I haven't heard any other adaptations. I've not read any of them. This for me is Jeeves and Wooster. And one of the things I hadn't realised was the musicality of it.
Oh my God,
that was something
I
drawing
cannot
on
get that theme tune out of my head.
Oh, the theme tune. I mean, the theme tune is lovely, written by the wonderful Anne Dudley, who also wrote the music for Crime Traveller.
Careful there.
And have you seen Bill Bailey's Remarkable Guide to the Orchestra?
Oh, no, but I do own it on DVD somewhere.
Okay, so she conducts the orchestra in that, and she also wrote the music for the Cavalcade of the Unloved, which is the sort of Bill Bailey's riposte to the Carnival of the Animals. So she's it's well worth watching for any number of reasons, but particularly because she's in there conducting and taking part in the whole thing. But yes, I love her music. It's absolutely brilliant. But also the fact that Hugh Laurie could play the piano. And this
that's it. That's one of the things he's got in common with House.
But that wasn't something that was originally in the original character, as far as I'm aware. That was something that they were like, oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I had read somewhere that it was something they added because it was something that he could do.
Oh, because the music is... There's one episode I remember where he's... is it Putting on the Ritz?
Yes. I was going to say that to you.
And the
we didn't watch the episode.
Out, and Jeeves tells him the correct one.
Yeah.
He's like, no, that doesn't work at all.
It's just really impressive.
Maybe it isn't in the books. I always thought it was.
No, it might well be. I had read somewhere that it wasn't, but yes, because that wasn't in one of the episodes we watched. But I found a few clips because I was like, I want to see all the different songs that he does. And it's the fact that he has the skill as a musician to play it wrong in character, right? Because as Hugh Laurie, he knows how to sing "Puttin' on the Ritz." Like we know how to sing "Puttin' on the Ritz."
Yeah.
But the Bertie as a character is encountering these pieces for the first time, and so he's trying to play it as he would, and he gets it wrong until, as you say, Jeeves points out, oh, if you do it syncopated 5/4, and then he plays it and he plays it correctly, but he has to act the getting it wrong first bit, which I think is an incredibly amazing skill for an actor and musician to.
Yeah, there's only like Les Dawson I can think of who's being able to do something.
And the one in the episode that we saw with the Minnie the Moocher with the getting Jeeves to sing along is just hilarious. It's so funny. Hody 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 ho, hody 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 ho, sir. And he's like, oh, it plays well with the feudal spirit, but does play merry hell with the rhythm. It's just yeah.
So are you saying that you've never seen a bit of Fry and Laurie?
I subsequently have, yes. So during my Love Film days, I borrowed all of the series of a bit of Fry and Laurie. So I have subsequently seen
broadcast.
Yeah, so I have subsequently seen all of a bit of Fry and Laurie, which was at the same time as this, right? I think they ran almost concurrently, really. So they were doing that for the BBC, and then they were doing this for ITV. And again, yes, you have some wonderful musical pieces from him in that,
You've also got Stephen Fry doing the song Kickin' Ass, which is one of my all-time favourite sketches of theirs, because he's dressed in like dungarees like somebody from the deep south of America, and he's got somebody who's, I think he's been kicked in the head by a cow, and he just keeps shouting, kicking ass, and don't think I could breathe. It was so good.
Oh, I love the one where he's the Soviet agent in the model aeroplane shop.
Oh, hang on.
It's like, I've been activated. It's like, do you want a model aeroplane of water, a cup of water? Anyway, and the one where where Laurie's giving Fry his name at the police station, where he does, my name is such and such, and then he drops a thing on the table, and he's like, how do you spell that? NIPPL-E. And then it ends with him kind of, his address is kind of involves whacking him round the head with a cricket bat. It's just yes, there's some great Fry and Laurie sketches.
There is, and there's some just nice tiny moments like where somebody just uses the word antlings instead of antlers, and
yep.
But then again, you always get Imelda Staunton going soapy twist, and I remember there was a long time when we would just say that instead of cheers.
Yeah.
Oh, have you seen the sketch where there's a headmaster and Hugh Laurie's written a poem, and the headmaster's having a go at him, and he's going, it's a reference to David Bowie, right? And then Stephen Fry later on in the sketch goes, I don't care who Derek Bowie is. And there was a jukebox in Newcastle where someone had written Derek Bowie, Life on Mars, on the little board, and it was near it's in Biker. The free trade inn, there was that was on the jukebox, Derek Bowie, and I stand to be corrected, but that was when I saw it, because somebody just went, go and have a look at was it like 7B or whatever was on the jukebox, and I went over and I was like, that's brilliant. So I've actually got the best of David Bowie on my MP3 player, and I've redone the metas so that it says Derek Bowie. It says
Derek Bowie. Well, anyway, so we can recommend a bit of Fry and Laurie, but we are talking about Jeeves and Wooster. So the 3 episodes that I sent to you, Michael, were the first episode of each of the first 3 series.
The first one of season 1.
And in part, that's because my recollection, and again, because I haven't watched them for a while, is that season 4 feels like they're just retreading what they've done before, right? Which is not to say that they aren't funny,
okay.
but my recollection is that season 4 feels like we've been here before, we've done this. Maybe we should just have stopped at 3.
They are what we do best, which is farce.
Yes.
And they do get more frenetic as they go on.
They do. And you also, one of the things that I realised, particularly when I got to the first episode of season 3, when you have Tuppy Glossop and then you have the Stokers, you're like, oh yeah, actually this does follow on from the previous season, right? The whole bit of Bertie having been engaged to Pauline Stoker and then her being engaged to Lord Chuffnell, that's all covered in series 2. So there is a sort of narrative progression as you go on, where one thing follows another. But at the same time, each episode does largely stand on its own as a story. You can just kind of go dip in and out as we did. And I because I hadn't watched them for a while, I just picked those 3. And what struck me in particular watching them was going, oh, that's in this episode. Oh, that's in this episode. Oh, that's in this episode. Because it's one of those things where you have lots of different memories of bits of stories, and then you forget that they're all part of the same whole.
Yeah,
it's a bit like. Do you have this experience with Classic Who where you get to the end of the penultimate episode and you go, there's still a lot of this story left?
Yeah.
I often have that experience where you go, oh, there's still quite a lot of this story to go to be put into the final episode, and then you watch the final episode and you go, oh, okay, that does all fit into that. And I felt that with these Jeeves and Wooster episodes where I was going, this is only episode 1 of the season, and it's got covering A, B, C, D all in this first episode. What's in the rest of the season? You know, and I guess that's partly, as I said, because a lot of them are 2 or 3 of the short stories bolted together. So there is a lot going on in each story across the 50 minutes. And it's nice seeing characters pop up again, though I think, as I alluded to last time, many of the characters are recast when they appear in a subsequent series.
Yeah, you were saying that. I must admit, I don't think I'd noticed.
Well, the only one in the episodes that we saw who was played by two different actors is Barmy Fungi Phipps, who's played by a different actor in Series 1 and Series 2, but he was barely... I mean, he's one of the Spot the Doctor Who actor people. So in terms of what we watched, you wouldn't have noticed that. But a lot of the characters that you saw do come back again. So, like Madeline Bassett is played by 3 different actors. Stiffy Bing is played by 2 different actors.
They have got superb names.
They have got great actors. Bingo is played by 2 different actors. Some people, like Spode and Sir Watkin, they stay the same across the 4 series.
I definitely think Spode was like... Yeah.
Tuppy Glossop, again, stays the same across the 4 series, which makes a lot of sense. Aunt Dahlia is played by a different actress in each season. I think she gets like 1 episode in each season, and she's played by a different actress in each season. Aunt Agatha is consistent up until the final series, and then they recast her for that one. And I think Madeline's 3. And we will come to Doctor Who actors later, but I will do this now because it's not a proper Doctor Who actor. But Madeline Bassett in the 3rd series and the 4th series is played by Peter Davison's current wife.
Oh, right.
So the 3rd incarnation of Madeline Bassett is married to the 5th incarnation of Doctor Who. But again, it's one of those things where, like,
I've met her and I didn't know.
It doesn't really matter, I think, is the thing. It doesn't really matter. I think the guy who plays Tuppy is great, and so I'm glad that he keeps playing Tuppy across the whole thing. But for the most part, all of the recastings work, with the possible exception of Roderick Glossop, who doesn't really work in the final season. Like the sort of uptight version that we see in the first 3 series is the best version of the character. But I think with pretty much any other character who gets recast, you're like, well, it works in the first instance and it works in the second instance. It's absolutely fine, but it's one of those things where you're just like, why? It's really and it's possibly one of those things that I think the directors changed across. I think there was one guy directed the first season, another guy directed the second season, and then the 3rd guy directed the final 2. So maybe there was an element of them just going, well, we're going to cast who we want. But at the same time, there was some continuity of people. So who knows? But it was one of those things where you're just like, it doesn't matter. We're just going to cast whoever works for this particular thing at this particular time.
So let's have a quick chat about Spode.
About Spode.
Because right, okay, so it's set in a nicer version of the 1930s, right? It's the 20s?
I think it's 20s. I think it's nondescript. It's somewhere between the wars, basically.
Exactly, right.
I don't think it ever says really.
So
I'm
the
sure...
First World War's not mentioned.
No.
And all that generation who died, it's set at the same time as Chariots of the Fire, I'm guessing.
Well, there's an overlap there.
And there's a whole posh school thing going on,
Yep.
but obviously, that's based on a true story.
Yeah.
And then, so the only real nods to history, because we don't get the Wall Street crash, or do we get people having bad investments and stuff?
I can't remember whether
It's not ringing any bells for me.
It's possible that might be alluded to in the 4th season, but don't quote me on that. I have a vague recollection of somebody investing in something dodgy at some point, but But you're right. It exists in a sort of fantasy world that is not touched by politics.
So the only thing that is even remotely historically influential is the rise of the brown shirts in the UK.
Yes.
And then the brown shorts here, in order to do that thing that we do best, which is take the piss out of political parties. That's what we do. We take the piss out of political groups, thinking that that's going to bring about their downfall. What Woodhouse is doing, and I just think it's interesting that he's gone, actually, the posh people are becoming fascists, and that would never happen these days, would it? And that's kind of where we're at. So I just think it's interesting that that's a recurring theme, because he does keep turning up.
But I guess none of them take him seriously, though, do they?
Yeah, they just see him as a threat of physical violence.
Yes, exactly.
Kind of comedy.
Yeah. And like you say, the Mickey taking, where he's doing that scene where he's sitting down at dinner and he's like, and Gloucestershire will be given over to bicycle production or whatever it is, and Norfolk will be potatoes and all this kind of stuff. And it's just silly. It's like we say, it's divorced from political reality, apart from the fact that in the character of Spode, it's acknowledging the time period in which this is happening, in that he is very clearly designed to look like Hitler, in terms of, they've cast an actor who bears a vague resemblance to Hitler.
Well, he's Oswald Mosley.
Yeah, well, exactly. And they've dressed him up like Nazis. There's very little subtlety there. Do you know what Eulalie turns out to be?
No.
So for those who haven't watched it, the plot of this episode involves Spode threatening Bertie and Gussie, his friend, and Jeeves goes off to his club because he's got a club for gentlemen's personal gentlemen, and he's allowed to kind of read about the
Junior
different
Ganymede. Why is it Junior?
Junior Ganymede. Okay, why is it the Junior Ganymede? We don't know. And he's not allowed to divulge any details, but he is able to say, if you say, I know all about Eulalie, Spode will then cease to be a threat, and he eventually does this. And then in a later episode, basically, Wooster discovers that Eulalie is a ladies' underwear shop. So not only is Spode this kind of joke version of Hitler or Mosley, he also makes bespoke underwear for ladies. And so this is why he doesn't want the two halves of his life being revealed to each other, which is why Wooster is able to blackmail him with this information. Yeah.
Got you, right.
So, yeah. And then ultimately, at the end of the series, Spode marries Madeline. Just to kind of top off that storyline.
What I'm guessing Madeline ends up being like, what were those sisters called? Oh,
the Mitfords.
It's going to do my head in now. Yeah, the Mitfords. Why hasn't there been a Mitfords TV series?
Has there not? I don't know.
Just... Well, no. It would be ideal. You could have it would basically be the Kardashians, but with fascists and communists and in nice costumes.
Yeah. I mean, what did you think of the American turn to the series? And obviously, that follows the fact that, Woodhouse himself went to live in New York. How do you feel that transition was of taking the format and taking it to America?
I don't mind it, actually, because I thought I would. Because clearly they're just using the same locations that you see in, say, Poirot.
Yes.
And... So, well, it's the same buildings are being used completely.
Yeah, and then a bit of stock footage to be like, look, we're in America.
Yeah, and a bit of... Yeah, nicely tidied up stock footage, but yes.
I mean, it's still obviously
Weirdly, using
not...
stock footage makes the whole show look cheaper.
Yes, I mean, there were various shots where you're like, oh yeah, that's a different quality of film stock. It's kind of obvious that they're just using stuff to make it work. I was also trying to work out whether the shot of them getting on the boat was like a matte painting, or whether any kind of effects were used to make it look like they were on a big
I was trying
ship.
to work out which boat it was.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't... Was it the QE2? Because I know the QE2 had a refit, so it might have been pre-refit.
I don't know.
Sorry, I gave it far too much thought. So
I mean, when we were watching it, my wife was like, "Is that the Titanic?" I was like, "No, wrong period, wrong period of time. The Titanic was pre World War One."
Look, basically, I'm very glad you brought it, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to revisit it again and be like, "No, I still find this funny."
Yeah, I was surprised because we've done a lot of reasonably hard-hitting sci-fi or some meaningful stuff, and this was just a nice sort of break from all that. It was good, enjoyable.
I realised watching the title sequence again that how much of an effect that had on me.
Go on.
Well, if people ask me kind of what were you inspired by, I would have talked about like the puppet animation, the stop motion animation, the kids shows that I watched as a kid.
Yeah.
Obviously we did Wallace and Gromit before on this show. But watching the title sequence of this again, I was like, oh yeah, no, this kind of went quite deep with me, because I remember in my first semester at uni that I did. Well, actually, and there was another thing in my first year. The way that like the shapes move and morph and do stuff, right? I love the style.
Yeah, it was incredibly good.
And I realised that I had absorbed that, and there were. I'm not saying that I was on this level, but there were a couple of pieces of animation that I did in my first year at uni where things morphed and twisted and the shapes moved from one thing to another as I was learning the sort of animation principles. And it sort of culminated in one of the final projects I did at the end of my first year, where one of the few times I've worked really, really hard for a concerted period of time on an animation. It was like 2 minutes of animation in about 5 weeks. It was insane. All hand drawn. It was about, I think I got through like 3 packets of A4 paper to kind of do this thing. And it was basically illustrating a song that my dad had written and performed. And there's just lots of movement of one scene morphing into another, and kind of changes of perspective. And I'm watching this, I was like, oh, this is probably where I got that from.
No, that's nice.
Because I don't think there's anything. I can't think of anything else really like this. Maybe the title sequence for Catch Me If You Can, which I also really love.
Yes,
you know what I'm talking about.
I just remember that being the film about the checkbooks.
Yes, yeah. I think I picked up that film purely on the basis that somebody showed me the title sequence. I was like, I'm going to get the film, and the film's fine. I've subsequently got rid of the DVD because I'm like, I think I've watched that film a couple of times, 2 or 3 times. I've seen it enough times. But actually, the thing that I possibly regret about getting rid of it is because the title sequence is great, and it feels of a piece with this Jeeves and Wooster thing, and because the music, it's just one of those things where we've talked about kind of theme tunes. Obviously, a lot of the theme tunes that I love are ones from my childhood, and so I think the fact that the Jeeves and Wooster theme tune was something that my brain encountered at the age of 7, and the animation, it probably all went in and just sat there, and I then was able to kind of draw on it later.
Well, you
when
were
I became an animator.
Not to go down that road too much, but you were messaging me about theme tunes, and this one is one of the greats.
Oh yeah. No, without a doubt. But it's one of those things that I realise it's very hard to be objective about these things, because
we don't need to be objective.
No, we don't need to be objective. No, we don't. Like, your personal list is your personal list. My personal list is my personal list.
Yeah.
But I think you can also say, to some extent, certain things are good compositions, and certain things are less good compositions, right? And I think I would be happy to say, Anne Dudley. Well, comparing the 2 theme tunes that I'm aware of, as much as I will go into bat for Crime Traveller at some point, the theme tune for this is a lot better than the theme tune for that, right?
Yeah,
like hands down, right? It's just a really good piece of composition, and one of those things where it crops in the incidental music as well in different moods and shades. It's a well scored piece of TV, just bookended by this piece of music that is instantly recognisable, feels of the period, and it fits in with the musicality of Jeeves and Wooster. So it's a lovely production, I think, is one of the things that I would definitely say about it. And I feel happy that I encountered it at the point in my life that I did, because it's it made me laugh then, and it makes me laugh now.
No, you nailed it. That's it. Right, Doctor Who actors, shall we?
Well, yes. So I went through, and of actors who appear in more than one episode, who've been in Doctor Who, there are 16 across the whole series of actors who appear in more than one episode who've been in Doctor Who. I didn't go through all the individual actors who've been in more than one, who've just been in one episode. So I've just got the list of the 3 episodes that we watched. I would say that in the first episode, There are 5, but 2 of them I definitely wouldn't expect you to spot. And then in the second episode, there are 2, one of whom is in the first episode, so we'll have covered him. And then in the third episode, there are 3. Again, I'd only expect you to find one of them. So, who did you spot, Michael, in watching Jeeves and Wooster?
Okay, now, because of this, I was watching it, and then I went, oh God, I'm supposed to be looking for Doctor Who actors. And then I went, right, so who's familiar? Who do I recognise? And I was going, right, that's not going to be good, because then there'll be other things as well. So I'm thinking, the judge at the beginning's a fairly safe bet.
Yes.
He looks like someone I know, and he sounds like someone, but
yes.
I cannot place him.
And obviously he then has a bigger part in the second episode that we saw. So yeah, you recognise he was in Doctor Who 4 times, if that helps.
Oh, great. It doesn't.
So you recognised him, but you can't place him. But that's fine. You score a point for that. But is there anybody else that you spotted who was like...
No. The lift man in the third story, I think he was in Doctor Who and was possibly in Aliens.
He was in Doctor Who and he was in Aliens. Well done.
Okay.
And I think you're possibly missing a really obvious one who you've possibly forgotten was in Doctor Who.
Now, hang on. Right. Yeah. The guy selling American cars looked, but didn't sound, very much like the bloke from Grange Hill, who Bronson.
Oh, you mean Michael Sheard? Yeah, I can see the resemblance.
He looked so much like Michael Sheard that I'm like, is that Michael Sheard doing an American accent so well that I got sidetracked? You have to remember, I was watching this on a phone.
No, that's
excuse.
Fine.
It's a big phone.
No, I think you're possibly forgetting that one of our 2 leads has been in Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah, in Spyfall.
Yes. Somewhat wasted.
There is that. Very wasted.
Yes. So, yes, you were right. Shall I go through the list then?
You know what? Yes.
So
hang on. There was the taxi driver at the very beginning before he was speaking. He was ridiculously familiar. The shopkeeper, I was convinced I know him from somewhere else. The one who was selling the
cow creamer. Yeah, I didn't recognise him from. He wasn't in Doctor Who, but it's interesting. I wouldn't have expected you to recognise the cab driver in the first episode. In fact, the cab driver in the Series 3 episode also been in Doctor Who, but the one that you spotted, his name was Tim Barker, and he played Harold V in the Happiness Patrol. So,
yes.
well done for spotting him.
Okay.
I wouldn't have expected you to spot him because I didn't. The taxi driver in America, who was literally blinking you'll miss it, was Morgan Deere, who was Hawk in Delta and the Bannermen, and Arthur in Rosa. And I was like, oh, if I hadn't been looking out for him, I would not have spotted him at all.
Right.
So the guy that you spotted who was the magistrate is John Woodnut. Does that ring a bell?
All right. The distant bell.
So he's Hibbert in Spearhead from Space. He was then the Draconian Emperor in Frontier in Space. He was the Duke of Forgill / Broton the Zygon in Terror of the Zygons. And then he was Seron. Right. He was Seron in The Keeper of Traken. So he was in Doctor Who a lot. But I think I must have seen him in this first. But I don't think I ever kind of connected the two. Then you have the 2 different actors who play Barmy Fungi Phipps. So the Barmy Fungi Phipps from Series 1 was played by Adam Blackwood, who was Balazar in The Trial of a Time Lord, who's the guy who gets the gunge on his face and then the 6th Doctor licks it off, if you remember him. One of the...
Is he the librarian?
Yes, the whole Habitats of the Canadian Goose, him.
Yes.
So he was Barmy Fungi Phipps in the Series 1. And then Barmy Fungi Phipps in Series 2, who I don't think actually said anything, but you definitely saw him, was Martin Clunes.
No.
Yes. Yeah, so he was definitely in the background in part of that episode, but I don't think he said anything. But he definitely crops up later in the series, and in the episode that
But Martin Clunes is a big actor.
But he wasn't back then, though. I think this was just pre-Men Behaving Badly, possibly?
Okay.
Or simultaneously. Anyway, he is in the episode where they all do the Black and White Minstrel show. which I ummed and ahed about sharing with you and decided not to. That is the one bit of content warning I probably would give, is that you probably wouldn't make that episode now.
No.
I think potentially if you watch it, you can justify the context. But equally, I can understand why people would be offended by it and wouldn't want to watch it. So there's an episode in Series 2 where, they do the Black and White Minstrel Show. Anyway, you were right. Rico Ross was the lift man.
Can I just say I do a superb vocal copy of Al Jolson, but as he is a white Jewish Italian man, I can get away with that.
Right.
Because we learnt when I was in the Cubs back in 1980,
right,
as part of the gang show, there was a minstrel scene, and we learnt all of those songs.
Right.
So I know the songs, and I duplicated Al Jolson's performance, but that's not a skill that's called upon these days. No.
But yes, you were right about Rico Ross as the lift man.
I was
He was in Aliens as one of the ill-fated Marines, and he was the ringmaster in the greatest show in the galaxy.
He certainly was.
And then the other one, and I wouldn't have expected you to spot this at all, because his two performances in Doctor Who are vocal performances. One, because it's missing, and the other, because it is a vocal performance and somebody else is inside the robot suit. So Roger Brierley, who played Sir Roderick Glossop in the first episode, who gets his hat stolen and is the nerve specialist, he is the voice of Drathro from Trial of a Time Lord.
Nice.
And he had previously appeared in...
No, that's a costume.
Yeah, it is. Well, because he's credited as Drathro by Roger Brierley, so I had assumed he was in the costume, but apparently not. Somebody else was in the costume and he just did the voice. And once you know it's him, you're like, okay, obviously it's him. He was also one of the cricket commentators in the Daleks' Master Plan, which is, I think, episode 8, when the TARDIS lands at a cricket match. And you have this quite funny scene where you've got...
not recreated by Douglas Adams from his folk memory at all.
Yeah. Exactly. And then, one more. In the third episode, in the diner... the couple who Tubby Glossop collapses onto their table, the man is played by Gordon Stern, who we saw last week in Highlander as the doctor who tells her that the guy has been stealing identities, who, as we said last time, was in the Ambassadors of Death, and also, I hadn't realised this, had appeared in UFO and The Prisoner. So more for your UFO watch and Prisoner watch.
Oh my god, he's a triple threat.
Yes, exactly.
We need a name for that. So we need to do them all.
But yes.
The hat trick? Oh god, that sounds suspiciously football-based.
To watch out in the rest of the series, if you watch the rest of the series, at various points, as I said, his aunts are played by different actors. They're both of the Rezzies from Paradise Towers, so Elizabeth Spriggs and Brenda Bruce, both turn up playing one of his aunts. So look out for them.
Elizabeth Spriggs was always good.
Yes, she was. And there's various other people who turn up. So it's a veritable kind of watch out for Doctor Who actors who turn up. The other person to watch out for in this was Michael Ripper, who played the porter, who was the sergeant from Quatermass and the Pit. So another Quatermass connection for you.
Why haven't we done Quatermass?
Well, we should do at some point. And then Francesca Folan, who plays Florence and Madeline Bassett. So this is a case of an actress playing two different parts in the series.
Okay.
So, series 1 and Series 4 is the hologram Camille from Red Dwarf, but we didn't watch an episode with her in. But if you're watching the rest of Series 1 and you kind of go, oh, where do I recognise her from? It's because she was the hologram version of Camille in Camille in Red Dwarf. So yeah, that's all my acting stuff. So I guess all that remains to ask, Michael, is what are we doing next time?
Right. Okay. So I'm sat here in my Pixar hat, and I'm wearing my Star Wars Mandalorian t-shirt. So obviously, building up, we're doing Sapphire and Steel. No, that's fine. Basically, I was torn. I was thinking, am I going to do... There was a handful of things, and I thought, no, when we first sat down to do this project, I thought we're going to do Sapphire and Steel at some point. And I was thinking of comedy stuff or some books or something like that. And I came back to it, and I came back to my original list, and I went, we really need to just bite the bullet and do Sapphire and Steel at some point. So it's on ITV Player, so you don't have to source it or get it from anywhere. And we're doing, I believe, Story 4. It's the 4-parter. All the others are 6-parters.
Okay. I have never seen Sapphire and Steel. I am aware of the basic concept, but it's one of those things I feel I should have got round to.
Very self-contained. You feel like you should know more than you do about the characters. You don't really need to have experienced the earlier stories. They are long. That's a good way of putting it. But it's ITV, 25-minute per episodes. How it got made is beyond me. It's much beloved, and I don't want to talk about it. I know obviously you're aware of it, but this is a specific story, and I will make sure that I've said the right one, because they're all just called Adventure 1, Adventure 2, and there's 6 adventures. The series did come back on audio with David Warner playing Steel instead of David McCallum, and Joanna Lumley is on record as saying, I had no idea what was going on. That's fine. And on the wall in this shed, there is a signed photograph signed by them both, which I'm very proud of.
Wow.
Okay. Right. So that is it. It's Sapphire and Steel, and I want to say it's the one with, but if I say that, then that kind of gives the plot away.
That's a spoiler.
So
okay.
Let's not do that.
Okay.
I will find out specifically which one it is, and I will say no, but it's definitely the 4-parter, because I didn't want to overtax you with sitting you down, giving you a huge amount of homework.
There's one with a train station?
That's number
right?
1.
Okay. So I know that there's one with a train station, and I know how it ends, because everybody talks about the fact that it ends in a particular way.
Badly.
And I know that David Collings turns up as a third member of the team at some point. And I know that it's kind of... Well, I know that the guy who wrote it wrote a couple of episodes of Torchwood, which I have seen, so I kind of have an idea of the way he writes. But yes, otherwise I have very little idea. It's on my vague background list of like things I should have seen, and I've just never got around to it. So I look forward to it.
So look, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm very glad you brought this.
I will say farewell and leave the final word to you.
Be seeing you. That was the Tin Dog Podcast. All topics discussed are the intellectual property of the copyright owners. No infringement is intended. Why not follow the show on Blue Sky at tindogpodcast.bsky.social. If you've enjoyed this podcast on YouTube, please click like and subscribe. To contact the show, email tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.